Hey, thanks. So I'm Don Cheadle. This is Vince Wilburn Jr. And my nephew. I guess we're gonna talk about this.
For those who don't know, this is how it all went down. 2006, we were in New York at the Waldorf Astoria. I'm receiving a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so on the stage, you go to the press corps. And one of the guys said, "Let's please permission to play your uncle in the biopic." Exact words. I said, Don Cheadle. I didn't know Don Cheadle. Never met him. And so when we got back to LA, Don's people were bringing him. And our people ran Don's people, and here we are. This is the man. So, I'm going to pass the mic that you already have with you.
What is launching?
No.
Yeah, we gotta act like this. We know how to do this. We don't really have a routine. We gotta act like we know how to do this thing. But all right, go ahead.
Why did you get into this period of Miles' life for the movie?
Well, when I was, I've been a fan of the music for, since I was 10, 11 years old. And my kind of way into Miles Davis was via Cannonball Adderley, because I played alto sax. So I was always trying to hear the alto sax players and who were the best alto sax players, what were they doing, and Charlie Parker, of course. But also Cannonball Adderley was ridiculous. And I used to listen to those solos, and when record players still had 78 speed, 45, 33, 78, I would play those 33s, those albums at 45, and so it would slow down and I could hear it. Now you have like sound, what's the thing you use now? Any musicians here? Huh? No, there's a program you can use now that does it. You can change the speed, it won't change the key, you can change the key. What is it? It's one of those, basically like one of those. Anyway, the version of that in 1979 was the 33 on 45. So I would listen to those records and I would listen to those solos and I would try to figure out what it was Cannonball Adderley was doing. And I would, once it was playing half as fast, I could actually notate it. So I would transcribe the solos and it would take me, days. But I really enjoyed it because I started figuring out what I was hearing. Even if it was just simple intervals, it's like once I started listening to music, like I remember once I discovered the 2-5-1, I was like, what? That's 85% of the songs I've ever heard in my life. So it just was, my mind was on fire like that. So I bumped into Miles via Cannonball. And also my parents had Someday My Prince Will Come Out. So anyway, that's just some history on my relationship with music. So I listened to it for a long time. And when you look at the, Miles' life and think about how prolific he was from the late 40s all the way up until, 79, and then there's 75, and there's this period where he's not playing. And it just felt like play what's not there. It felt like very Miles to focus on that and think about, what's the space between the music, space, music. I'm like, I get those. I don't know what this is in here, the quiet thing. And why? What's that about? And I saw that exhibit that was touring in France. Yeah, the We Want Miles exhibit. And it goes to that quiet period. And even the way that was constructed with the sheets and the low lights and the pictures that were blurred. It was just such an interesting point in time. So for us, we wanted to look at what happens in there and how does this incredible artist get out of writer's block, basically. You know, we would talk about that, because I would say, why did he stop? And you said he didn't have anything to say. You know, and to me, someone who had said so much and then soon would say a lot again, that was an interesting point to me, the quiet, the silence, the what's happening during that period of time. And that just became, for us, creatively a point of departure, a place to try to figure out how to get back to speaking again, finding your voice.
It's been stated that when Don was this stage on House of Lies, you never, when you had a break, you would go to the trailer and practice the trailer.
Yeah, I practiced a lot, maybe to the chagrin of some of my people that I shared a wall with, but yeah, I wanted to understand how to play. I wanted to have the facility. I wanted to know what that was about. I'm so glad I did, because now when I listen to those solos, the relationship that I have, or just in music, the relationship that I have with it is so much more intimate. I understand, you know, this much more than I understood, but it feels like it just expanded everything.
I gotta say that Don arranged for Herbie Hancock to see the film before he went to South America, and Herbie sent us an email. He stated that watching this movie that Don directed was like Miles actually witnessing his dream. Like he was in this was his dream. This whole movie was Miles' actual dream. And what made you move around like the different?
Well, you know, we listened to the music a lot when we were writing this. Stephen Begelman, who co-wrote this with me, and we wanted to kind of construct it like a piece of music. And what we were focusing on in Miles' music was modality. You know, when he moved from sort of bebop and nine-ed and those different sort of, you know, Miles plus 14 and all that stuff, and then he started playing with that second supergroup, playing with modes, and, you know, sort of, instead of running a bunch of scales, you know, it was kind of horizontal. It was just this and that. It was just yes and no. And it felt like it's also the construction of kind of the classic biopic in that way, where you have the present time, you have another time that is back then somewhere. We didn't want to give number generators and dates and months and locations, because it really didn't matter to us. We started to put album names, you know, just to sort of set where it was, but that all felt like some kind of A, thing that we've seen done before, and B, more about trying to give some information to people as opposed to giving some kind of an experience of a story that all kind of was tumbling forward. We wanted the story to like start to create its own momentum until ostensibly it's like crack the whip and out comes Miles with the next thing to say, as unlocked by Junior, who is
Also stated that everyone from the assistant director on down was you would play together like Miles did his band.
Yeah, I wanted to, because I had to, you know, I was wearing too many hats. We were trying to do, everyone was trying to do a lot, and people had to be empowered, and I think it's the best result that you get in movies anyway, is when you understand that everyone who's in a key position, a creative position to bring to bear their expertise or talent, that you get the best result. And in this one, it was incredibly necessary for my producing partners, my acting co-stars, to have a lot of autonomy and be able to bring their talent to bear, and us being a collaboration, like a band. Like everything was meta for me. Everything for me was still trying to make this Miles experience. I wanted to be as close to Miles Davis as I could, as opposed to giving some accounting of his life that a book does better, or the documentary does better. I wanted to do something in 100 minutes that a novel, or that you know, a biopic doesn't usually try to do. I wanted to do something like Miles would do.
And Don was like a sponge with I would deliver hard drives of just like one hard drive would have just all voices. One hard drive would have bootleg tapes to Carlos Santana. He's a fanatically collector of bootleg tapes, so it was like all these hard drives. so I flew to Cincinnati, Aaron and I, my cousin. And we get there, we're down to film the movie. And,
Miles' son, Aaron.
Yeah. And I go on set. And I was just quiet because it was so, not eerie, but it was just like, it was like seeing my uncle there and seeing the 312 West 70 apartment in Brownstone. And it was like, okay, this is it. I knew that day in Cincinnati. I mean, I knew when I said Don Cheadle because I'd seen Devil in the Blue Dress and Miles the Character. Miles, that was like, that to me was my but being in Cincinnati that day, I was like, okay. You talked with the raspy voice when we went up to your suite too.
Well, I didn't want to jump in and out of, I'll do it. Well, it was, challenging enough trying to find that and still be in that and direct, or still be in that and talk to somebody about what color that pillow is supposed to be. You know what I mean? So I always wanted to try to stay as close to him as I could and not come in and out. And I even apologized to Aaron because I'm like, I'm not trying to do a bit. I'm not, I know you're talking to someone trying to act as your dad, but I gotta stay in this thing. And Aaron left. I remember he was like, this is too weird, I'm leaving.
Tell us about the scene when you were recording the kind of blue movie. This is pretty fun.
So we shot in Cincinnati, as Vince mentioned, 6 weeks, which is 30 actual shooting days. So we were pressed up against it all the time. And the scene in the movie where Miles is playing Blue and Green to Francis in the club, and people fade away, and it's just for them. Our special effects guy, because you create atmosphere when you're in those smoky scenes, so the special effects guy's job is to smoke up the room, so it has that really smoky look. So I guess he was using something that was more akin to real smoke than not real smoke. And so during that scene, the fire alarm is going off, the smoke alarm is going off, and the fire department is driving up the street with their sirens blaring. So if you see the movie again, or if you recall that beautiful, quiet, serene moment where I'm playing that ballad, what's really going on is it's sirens and there's madness. Yeah, I mean, I'm cool to answer questions if anybody has any questions. Are we passing the mic, or I'll just repeat your question. What's that? No mics? All right, go ahead. I'll just repeat your question.
So, how much of this is this more just more of like a metaphor or dream, or is it any of it factual based during that time?
Well, there's a lot of facts in it. There's tons of facts in it.
Okay. So, I mean, did that whole thing with the writer,
I'm somewhat loath to, in the experience of the movie, kind of go and give you a check box off of what's real and what's not real. You can go to Wikipedia right now and you'll get a ton of it. You can probably do it while we're still sitting here. And anyway, yeah, sure you did. Yes, hi.
You mentioned that Junior was also mom.
You say that it's a brilliant movie of jazz. I really thank you for.
Thank you.
It's hard to ask a question because you don't ask Miles Davis, what does that mean?
You could.
But I'd just like to say to you, thank you for your years and years of doing profound things. Rwanda, Not in Our Name. I mean, the stuff that you're doing personally with your own big commitment.
Thank you.
I have a question here from Ms. Frida Payne.
Hello.
I wanted to ask, that scene at the office of Columbia Records, that was Dr. George Butler.
Yeah.
And was that fictitious, that guy that wound up taking the tape and that the shooting and all that, running, driving in the streets and shooting and all that? Did that really happen, or was that a fictitious scene?
Uh-huh. You and this gentleman right here. Miles was shot in a, I mean, well, yes. I don't want to, again, go down the line, but you can look it up and you'll understand why we put the things in the way that we put them in and how they were expressed. It's all there to create this narrative and this story that we wanted to create, and as this gentleman said, have it feel like feel like jazz, feel like music, be a impressionistic take on a story. When you have the storyteller who's correcting the record for someone about how to tell his story, and he picks up a horn and blows and you hear a gunshot, we're through the looking glass for me. So if it's a fact thing, which is fine, I mean, people want to watch it that way, that's all good, and you experience the movie how you experience, but there will be other things that are left behind if that's what the question is, I think, if you're looking for the facts part, because that's not really what I was trying to do. Yeah. Somebody back there, yes. Oh, there were so many. I mean, there were so many things that we didn't explore, and we really, the working title of this movie initially was "Kill the Trumpet Player Volume 1," because we wanted to do a sequel, and we thought we could do a prequel, and we thought we could do many different ways to talk about this man's life. Of course, we did the research about his father. And we know about his upbringing and how he was raised and what happened in his family and his father being the encouraging force to have him leave and seek the street where he met Charlie Parker and Dizzy, and all of that history was known. But again, it felt like to go back and sort of do an origin was again something that I've seen before, and it feels kind of familiar. And there's other places to get that information, and it didn't feel inherently like the kind of the story that I wanted to tell about art and about artistic expression and innovation and jazz and composition. That's what I was focused on.
What was the most difficult part of finding Miles for you?
I don't know that any of it was easy necessarily. Learning how to play the trumpet is very challenging, but I thought it important to not be in the film about Miles Davis playing and not being able to play or understand what that is and having a bedrock for that. But I guess it was all interesting and challenging in different ways. Yeah, it was a tough one. It was all very neurotic, making the entire experience. A lot of it was.
The inclusion of the Rolling Stone rider, as I understand it, or if you believe what was in the press, was a bit controversial. How would you handle the lack of that character? Because I thought it was pretty effective in being a vehicle for that tension. I know it's metaphorical, and I know
That character was always in there. It was in the original. No. I think you're talking about the casting of who would play that part. But that part was the construction of it. It was not dissimilar to other films that we know, like Lenny, perhaps, or even All That Jazz, where the main subject is telling the story to someone. That's the framing device for the narrative.
So then it was the star power element, not the actual character that was the...
Correct.
I wanted to say, if this is your first film that you've directed, right? Like,
Yeah, my first film, yes.
Very, very strong directorial debut. As a newly minted film storyteller, what type of story are you looking to tell next for your follow-up?
Anything that I can direct from the bed. from the fetal position. I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking.
So I noticed throughout the film I could maybe count a handful of wide shots. What was the conscious decision for all the close-ups, and even if there was kind of a wide, there was in the foreground there was a close-up either in focus or out of focus. What was the conscious decision behind that as the filmmaker?
The question is why the use of, or why the sparing use of wide shots. Both practical and storytelling. Practically because we were in Cincinnati, and if you're like this, it's New York, and if you're like that, it's Cincinnati. So you know, New York, Cincinnati. So we had to really be disciplined about the frame and control that and try to compose shots that would allow us to stay in that mystique of the city that we're supposed to be in, even though we never say New York. We say Columbia. We couldn't even say Columbia University for legal reasons, which is why we say Columbia, and Miles says, we just left Columbia, motherfucker, and he goes, the other way. So, and in music, in jazz music, there's a lot of quotes, you know. You might be playing a song and you're playing, I don't know, what have you, Mary Had a Little Lamb, but you would quote, someday my prince will come. And it's sort of an homage, it's a tip of the hat. You know, in other art forms it's called stealing. But in jazz, soloists refer to each other and to each other's work by evoking them through music. And there's a lot of that stuff going on in set design. You know, there's pieces that are in Miles' house that are in Junior's house. There is the painting that's behind George Butler's office in Columbia, that's behind Harper Hamilton's office. We're constantly saying visually and trying to also say with the words from the characters' mouths themselves that this is one experience. This is all one experience. And it's Miles telling his story the way he wants to tell it. And it's all about creativity. It's all about, and that beginning where Miles does correct Dave and tell him, you ain't Walter Cronkite, let me tell you how to tell the story. I kind of bit that from Electric Miles. And there's a moment in that where Herbie Hancock is sitting at the Rose, and he's not doing anything, he's just sitting there, and you don't know what's happening. The credits start rolling, he turns toward the keys, and he's still not doing anything. He slowly starts to play this piece that it feels like he's just creating it on the spot, and it's weird and strange and muddled and heavy, and then he kind of moves it up the keyboard and it turns into this other thing, and he finishes this cool, beautiful piece, and he turns and he says to the invisible questioner, you know, I didn't know what to play. You asked me to play Miles, and I didn't know what to play, because Miles is all of that. Miles is not about anything that came before. It's what's happening now. That's what Miles Davis is about. And I was like, that. And you know, those kinds of things were always the marching orders for us. Don't do what, you know, like if Miles heard you rehearsing in your hotel and you came down and played that song on the stage, it's a wrap, you're out of the band. Because he was about figuring it out. Herbie said Miles paid us to practice in front of people. And that's, you know, when you embrace that really and go, okay, I'm gonna try, so I'm gonna take a big swing. This might work, it might not work, but Miles was like, take a big swing, goddammit, don't be safe. So, yeah, be fearless.
I like that.
Yes, I'd like to say congratulations in taking that next step when you had that passion in your heart to go to the real people and crowdfund your idea.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, and all of these things to answer, kind of to come back to your question, sir, about putting it together and how it's put together, that all of these things are a part of getting a movie like this made. Our initial budget was $8.5 million. You know, and I started to call the movie 8.5 because I just thought that would be cool too. Just still Fellini, why not? But so all of these things had to be done to get the movie made. The casting of the film, I had to put in money. I had to defer all my money. Kevin Hart had to put in some money. Prowse put in money. This One's Cousin put in money. We shot in Cincinnati. Frank Gehry put in money. We shot in Cincinnati, which was a rebate. So we had this rebate up front. We crowdfunded on Indiegogo. We did everything to try to cobble this together and eventually get a green light. So, and the way the script was written was a part of it. I mean, the attempts to do a Miles Davis story predate me by 20 years at least.
No more pictures for me.
No more pictures.
We got this.
We'll let you know when we get that green light. We're good.
I'll text you.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Hello? Oh.
Hello.
Sir and gentlemen, I want to say it's a really, really special moment when one of this world's greatest living actors portrays one of the greatest musicians that ever lived. And I'm a second-generation jazz musician, so this film, and my dad knew Miles, so this film is very, very, very special for me. And thank you, sir.
No, thank you.
When you were writing the film and deciding which flashbacks to put in, how did you decide where to draw from in Miles' past to refer to? Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to casting Keith Stanfield. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah, Keith is shit. The way that we, the modality that we were playing with when we wrote the script, the major and the minor, you know. Francis Taylor rather, Miles and Francis both kind of speak about their relationship in very similar terms as, you know, the one that got away and the one that was incredibly impactful for both of them. And you know, the span of their relationship, roughly 10 years, is the same time from when that first supergroup Miles was playing So What with, and we have it in the film. So What is the first sort of Miles Davis kind of clear song that people recognize and that they know. To when Miles was playing with that second supergroup and playing So What like it was so epic what, and it's twice as fast and solos going crazy and taking it way out, which we have in the boxing ring sequence. That's So What too, but it's played the way that second group played it when they were, you know, that's Miles in Tokyo, Miles in Berlin. It's just the most expansive expression of that music, and then they never played that again. Miles never played that kind of music again. And their relationship, Francis' relationship, spans that same period of time. You know, she kind of says in the film, like, you've never played better in your life. Like, this is the best. I bring this to you. She was a reason that Miles played Sketches of Spain, and why that record came in, the flamenco influence. So she was a very big part of his creative life in that way. And she, for us, the metaphor as well as the truth, is that for us, she was sort of the tapes incarnate. She was what was always being threatened to be missing and stolen, and who claim ownership. All of that was surrounding her, from him to her, but also his relationship with that music in the A story. So when we cut back and forth, it's always about when that is being challenged. It's always when his vulnerability is being I guess he's put in his most vulnerable moments. The first time he goes to see Francis is in the elevator after just being told in the office basically that you don't exist, we own your music, this dude's gonna take your spot, you're better off dead, kick rocks, basically. And he he sees someday my prince will come in the elevator, and he pushes the back wall and goes to her. And the cut out of that is her pirouetting for him. He almost has her, she's almost to him, and then she falls, and Dave finishes the fall in the present. So those were that was the kind of way that we constructed a lot of those moments throughout the movie, is when Miles was, his muse, his voice, his expression was either being challenged or threatened or about to be gone. That's when we would cut back and forth in the movie.
Wasn't it important that she was on a record jacket?
It was very important to Miles.
Been done before.
Yeah, Miles was tired of having people on his albums that he was like, didn't have anything to do with him. And he said, I want my woman on my record. So he put Frances on the album cover. She's also on the album cover of ESP. And he's looking at her, the way they're looking at each other, she goes, that was actually not very long before she took off and ran off into the night. So if you look at that ESP cover, just the way that they're relating to each other is trip, it's trip.
If you could have seen Miles perform live, what concert or venue would it have been?
I did see Miles perform live, and I saw him in Red Rocks in Colorado, the Natural Amphitheater. It's 1982, I was a senior in high school, and I'd gone with some friends to see the whole set. I think the set that night was like, I just want to see Miles. Actually, that's not true. I want to see Miles most especially, but I also liked the Jeff Lord Fusion at that time. I had just started getting the Fusion and Return to Forever and Lady White and Chick, and I went to see them. So that night, I think it was Spyro Gyra, Jeff Lord Fusion, and Miles, and he was late. And he came on kind of after a while, and he started playing kind of out. It was him, Mike Stern, Bill Evans, Marcus, Al Foster. Mino. It was just some really different stuff that was happening. And my friends were like, I don't know, man, I don't know about this. I think I want to go. I'm like, we stayed for Spyro Gyra, and we're going to leave for Miles. No, not to cast aspersions against Spyro Gyra or anything, but we're going to leave for Miles. You crazy?
Do we have time for one more question?
Oh, you had a question. I'm sorry, Peter.
The real Frances Davis, has she seen the movie yet?
Many times.
Okay.
Second class. Now that's the penultimate. This is the ultimate.
Thank you so much for sharing your gift with us. I wanted to ask what your process was like going in character and coming out, and did that process change since you were directing this film?
When we wrote the script, actually, when we thought about how we were going to construct the story, you have to answer what color the pillows are. You have to tell somebody, no, not that fork, this fork. But doing it as chief, which is what Vincent and the guys used to call Miles, and you're kind of the captain of the ship, I said, well, I have to be able to kind of stay in that mode, and in that mindset, and in that tempo rhythm, and that character, and often, the mountain had to come to Muhammad. I would have to be in the chair, and I'm like, the keys got to come talk to me. I can't go around the set checking on everything. And sometimes you try to call across the room and like, Jim. If you come so sometimes, necessity, I would have to do what I had to do and come out. But the days that were like the heavy days and days that, that was going to be more challenging, everyone knew where they were in the schedule because oh, that's a heavy day. So let's try to do everything we can to support me so that he could stay there as much as possible, and the mountain can come to Muhammad and not have to have me come up porpoise so much. Some of that was necessary and some of that was inevitable, but whenever I did it, I would always try to pull it into Miles. I would always try to make it about what Miles needed in that moment. And I was like, all of this stuff is about my expression. So I'm going to treat all of this stuff in that way, because that was the only way to do it and really get through it effectively. Thank you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.